Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing on the nominations of Lisa Monaco to be Deputy Attorney General and Vanita Gupta to be Associate Attorney General. These are the number 2 and number 3 positions of leadership in the Justice Department. Ms. Monaco, Ms. Gupta, welcome to you and your families. We're happy to have you here. As I discussed at Judge Garland's hearing, the Justice Department is at an existential moment after 4 tumultuous years under President Trump. Too often during the last administration, the Justice Department essentially served as an arm of the White House, committed to advancing President Trump's personal and political interest. Judge Garland made it clear that restoring the department's independence and integrity is the highest priority for him and for his leadership team. This transformation is essential. Our nation faces challenging security threats, both here and abroad. And we know from the morning headlines out of Minnesota that we are also, as a nation, confronting important questions about race and inequality in our society. The public must have the assurance that the Justice Department is ready to respond to the threats facing us and is dedicated to ensuring equal justice under the law. I believe these nominees can meet that challenge. As Merrick Garland said of them, and I quote, "They have the skills that I do not have. They have experiences that I do not. I need this leadership team if I'm going to be successful." Simply put, Lisa Monaco may be the most qualified individual ever nominated to serve as Deputy Attorney General. As President Obama's Deputy National Security Advisor, she coordinated the federal government's response to a wide variety of security risks, including natural disasters, pandemics, terrorist attack, and cyber threats. I worked with her. I know that President Obama trusted her skill and judgment. Just as important, Ms. Monaco has the experience at nearly every level of the Department of Justice. She served as an Assistant U.S. Attorney, Counselor and Chief of Staff to the Director of the FBI, Associate Deputy Attorney General, Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General, and Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division. For that last role, the Senate confirmed her by voice vote. Lisa Monaco knows the department. She is ready to hit the ground running, and she is well positioned to help restore the morale of the department's career professionals. Vanita Gupta is well qualified to be the Associate Attorney General. She would be the first civil rights lawyer and the first woman of color in our nation's history to serve in that position. Ms. Gupta has already had an amazing career. From 2014 to 2017, she led the department's Civil Rights Division. In this role, she led the department's work on a broad range of critical issues, including voting rights, policing reform, enforcing the Americans with Disabilities Act, and protecting our military from discrimination and predatory practices. She developed a reputation for bringing together stakeholders from diverse backgrounds to address tough challenges. I want to spend a moment about her early career, which I think tells us so much about her. Ms. Gupta started her legal career with the NAACP's Legal Defense and Education Fund. I was fortunate enough a few years ago to be given a book called The Devil in the Grove by Gilbert King. It was the story of Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP's Legal Defense and Education Fund. It's one of the best. It tells the story how Thurgood Marshall, African American, on trains, headed to the South to defend African Americans who had been accused of serious felonies. It was risky, it was dangerous, it was controversial, but it was the right thing to do in the cause of justice. You cannot read that account without coming away with a great admiration for his courage to risk his life for others, which he did time and time again. As I said in the book, he fought countless battles for human rights in antebellum courtrooms where white supremacy often prevailed. At night, when he was out of the courtroom, he had to worry about night riders and Klansmen and whether they would try to take his life. It's hard to imagine being an effective attorney, worrying at any moment that someone might kill you. I tell that story because I believe there's a parallel here. While Vanita Gupta was with the NAACP's Legal Defense and Education Fund, she led a landmark effort to exonerate nearly 40 wrongfully convicted individuals in the small town of Tulia, Texas. I asked John Cornyn, and he said he'd been by Tulia up in the panhandle of Texas. The individuals she was defending were almost all African American. They had all been convicted of drug charges based solely on the false testimony of one undercover officer. This officer was eventually revealed to be both dishonest and overtly racist. Ms. Gupta's clients were ultimately pardoned by Republican Governor Rick Perry, and the state of Texas paid a $6 million settlement. There's a parallel, there's an historic parallel to Thurgood Marshall's effort as an African American to go to the place where he was not welcome and to defend those who had no lawyer. Ms. Gupta's experience in Tulia, Texas parallels Thurgood Marshall's life and his work at the Legal Defense Fund. In recent years, Ms. Gupta has been the president and CEO of one of the largest and most distinguished civil rights organizations in the country, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. It is sad and pitiful that this exceptional nominee has been targeted by a right-wing dark money organization which is running television ads that make patently false claims. I can't say it any better than the Washington Post, which called the ad they're running against her, quote, a baseless smear campaign, which is, quote, categorically dishonest, and that is, quote, mainly notable for the magnitude of lies and distortions it crams into 30 seconds. This ad claims that Ms. Gupta supports defunding the police, but as the Washington Post wrote, awkwardly, there's zero proof of that, including in the ad's own footnoted citation. I am disappointed that some of my Senate colleagues are repeating the claims in this ad. It is the height of irony that anyone would criticize this well-qualified Justice Department veteran after we sat silently by while there was no Senate-confirmed Associate Attorney General for nearly 3 years during the Trump administration, an unprecedented leadership vacuum. In reality, Ms. Gupta worked closely with law enforcement during her tenure at the Justice Department. She led the department's efforts to reform policing practices, while also improving relations between police departments and the communities they serve. Don't take my word for it. Ms. Gupta's nomination has received the support of virtually every major law enforcement organization in the country. Consider a few of their statements. The Fraternal Order of Police wrote that Ms. Gupta, quote, always worked with us to find common ground even when that seemed impossible. The president of the National Sheriff's Association wrote, I strongly believe that Ms. Gupta is exactly the type of leader who's needed in the Justice Department today. She possesses immense credibility among law enforcement leaders and community leaders. She is an effective communicator and a bridge builder. The Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association wrote, Ms. Gupta has a proven history of working with law enforcement agencies, correction officials, advocates, stakeholders, and elected officials across the political spectrum. She has formed partnerships with many conservatives. Consider a few of the conservative leaders who have submitted strong letters of recommendation. Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Here's what he wrote about Ms. Gupta, an honest broker, someone with an ability not only to understand but also appreciate different perspectives. She was someone who sought consensus. Mark Holden, the former general counsel of Koch Industries, wrote, I respected and admired how Ms. Gupta was not ideologically driven, but instead was principled and solutions-oriented. She worked incredibly hard to find solutions where some saw none. And Michael Chertoff, who served as Secretary of Homeland Security under President Bush, wrote of Ms. Gupta, she is a relentless advocate for fairness and the rule of law. I am grateful that there are leaders like her who will be serving this country. I am grateful, too, that distinguished leaders like Ms. Gupta and Ms. Monaco are ready to come back into public service, even when that means enduring this process and some of the things that come from it.